and record. There we go. Great.
Okay. So we have a co-host. Recording is in progress. And
what is the time on your speech, Swarna?
It's going to be 15 minutes. So maybe you can do 12, 13, 14, or I mean 12, 13, and 15.
Okay. How about 14, 15, and 16?
You're giving me a minute extra? Okay.
No, 15 minutes max. So 13, 14, 15 would
13,
be
14, 15. Okay.
I think the instructions are in the agenda too.
they are. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thursday Night Vision Masters Toastmasters Club meeting. The theme for tonight's meeting is Happily Ever After. This is a almost time-worn phrase that has generally been used to indicate, and they lived happily ever after. However, the details of the living have usually been omitted. In our speeches, we may hear some details about how to make that happen. I will now turn over the meeting to the club president, which means I just doff another hat. Now, wearing the hat of club president, I want to welcome our speaker, Swarna. I want to welcome Denise. I'd like to welcome, let's see, I saw somebody else that was a guest here. Henry, there you are. And I see phone number, area code. Hello, Rosemary. Hello, DeMarie, and hello, Katrina. So welcome everyone to our Toastmaster meeting. We've got some very good speeches tonight. I'm really curious and looking forward to getting some good information on speaking. To that end, I will doff the club president hat and actually put on the Toastmaster hat, as I am also Toastmaster for this. And you have to be pretty versatile, not only linguistically, but also within the roles in the meeting. So as Toastmaster, I again want to welcome you to our meeting this evening, as we have some interesting speeches to be shared. I'd just like to again remind our guests and visitors that a Toastmaster meeting is a meeting that has several parts, and sometimes they may all seem to be moving at the same time. However, they are distinct in terms of what happens during these parts of the meeting. One part of the meeting is the prepared speeches. These may be a length of 5 to 7 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, or longer. The speaker has taken time to prepare the speech, to prepare for potential questions, and to deliver the speech within a time limit. The second part of our meeting is the opportunity, I'll say, for guests, visitors, and members to speak extemporaneously, to speak off the cuff, as it were. This is called table topics. It's a time of the meeting that I really like, in that it provides an opportunity, particularly if one is shy or reluctant to speak, to do so without the pressure of having the speech timed or very heavy evaluation happening. So it's a time when I would really encourage guest visitors to step right up and literally say what's on your mind. The third part of our meeting is the evaluation part. It's during this time that we hear evaluations of, one, the prepared speeches, but also of the meeting itself. We have people who are, one, timing various parts of the meeting, the speeches given, the time taken, as well as use of language during the meeting. It's during this time that we will hear reports from these persons about how our meeting was. To that end, I will now introduce our general evaluator, who will introduce members of the team that will specifically do these various parts of meeting evaluation. Our general evaluator for tonight's meeting, Wesson Sai. Wesson.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good evening, everyone, especially our guests. My role as a general evaluator, I'm gonna evaluate the entire meeting except the speakers. The speakers have their own evaluators. I believe we have 2 speakers and we're supposed to have 2 evaluators, but I don't see Sal for our second evaluator. Am I right? I'm using my cell phone, so I'm not sure I'm seeing everyone. And we have a grammarian, Sally. I don't see Sally either. Let me make sure we have those people here. Our grammarian and the second speaker, the second evaluator for the evening.
We don't have Sally, the grammarian. I will have to get off Zoom and I will call her and I'll come back.
Okay. And we don't have the second evaluator. This anybody willing to evaluate Dr. Wade's speech?
I will be evaluated for Dr. Wade's speech. And if you can either put in the chat or email to me, Dr. Wade, your objectives, I can review them prior to your speaking.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to introduce you later on. For now, I would like to call our timer to tell us how what's his role as a timer. I believe Mike is our timer for today.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I will be the timer for tonight, and the purpose of the timer is to record the times that the speakers, table topics, answers, and the evaluators take to do their responses. We have Swarna here from Singapore, so nice to have you. She has a 15-minute speech, so at 13 minutes, I'll show the green card, 14 minutes the yellow card, and 15 minutes the red card. Then we have a prepared speech by Dr. Wade. And will that be a 5 to 7 minute speech, Dr. Wade?
Yes.
Okay, we'll have a 5-7 minute speech. Our our table topics will be 1 minute green card, 1.5 minute yellow, and 2 minutes red. And our evaluations will be 2 minutes green, 2.5 minutes yellow, and 3 minutes red. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Sally is not here to tell us how what's her role as a grammarian. Maybe later on. And Bruce, are you here? To make sure you are the first evaluator. Bruce?
Yes, repeat that, please.
Okay, so you are the first, and then you are evaluator for speaker number 1. So just to make sure, you know, you are aware of that. Did you get the agenda?
No, I did not.
Okay, yeah, you are evaluator for speaker number 1.
The agenda is
Rules.
in the chat. If you go and click on that posting there, you can see it.
Yeah.
Might have to scroll up a little bit.
It's in the chat.
Yeah, you have
It's
to.
in the chat, was put in the chat very early.
Where-
It should
where-
show a timestamp 6:33 from Mike Pruitt, Club Coach, to everyone.
Yeah, where it says MP, then you click on that and you'll see the agenda.
Well, I'm looking for it. and
Okay.
failing.
Scroll up with your
Yes.
mouse until you get to the top. It's at the very top of the meeting chat.
At the very top is everyone. Then Kamara.
If he came in after the agenda was shared, he will not have access to it, so it would have to be shared again.
Mike, can you post the agenda once more?
Maybe.
Okay, to save time, anyway,
I just
back
posted.
to you, Mr. Toastmaster. Bruce, I'll call you later on. You are, okay. Sally is here. Are you ready to give us a,
Thank you, guys.
okay.
Hello, Sally. I believe you're being called upon to explain your role as grammarian and give us the word of the day.
I don't have a word of the day. Can you tell me right away, please?
Oh, the word of the day is expectations.
Oh, excellent. Yes.
Expectations. The belief that something will happen, and it generally should
Something
be good.
wonderful.
Generally,
Great.
it should be
I
good.
think I made that up a couple days ago, but I forgot. I had this
Okay.
meeting. I have to go turn something off.
Okay. So expectations is the word of the day. And the idea is that everyone, when in a speaking role, or whether prepared speech or table topics, or even just in commentary, will find an opportunity to use the word of the day. Hopefully the usage will be very prolific. Those are our expectations for word usage. By the way, tell Sally I got one for the word of the day already.
Tell Sally what? I'm here. Woo.
Okay, briefly, can you tell us your role as grammarian? Thank you for putting the word of the day in the chat. Madam General Evaluator, have we heard from all members of your team? Do we?
Yeah, no, already I back to you. I said back to you, Mr. Toastmaster, because we need
Okay.
to save time. We are
Yes, we
behind
do.
time now.
Thank
Yes.
you. Okay. Our first evaluate speech will be by Swarna and Kalyan. Is that how I pronounce your last name? Kalyan? Thank you. District Director from Singapore. Wow. She's a professional who has adapted to change over the years of moving around the world. From a mechanical engineer to a wealth manager and trainer, currently her life is about agility. She is passionate about volunteering and lifelong learning. Toastmasters fits perfectly well for her lifelong learning goals. In the past 6 years, she has completed ACB/ALB in the traditional path and 5 pathways, and has 2 DTMs, which means Distinguished Toastmasters. Toastmasters has helped her hone her leadership skills, starting from the club executive level to now the district director. Her motto in life is growth happens outside the comfort zone, and hence, quote, always looking, unquote, for opportunities to grow. Swarna Kalyan. Her title is Concluding Your Speech from the Better Speaker series. Concluding Your Speech. Swarna Kalyan.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster of the Day, Kuwaza. Can you all hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Okay, let's have some ground rules before I start my sharing. I want to understand, what are your expectations today from listening to me? Anybody can unmute and tell me?
You are going to give
How
us
many
some
of you?
tips.
Oh, okay, thank you. Some tips. Okay. How many of you are speech crafters here? Maybe show of hands. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I see 2 hands. So I guess the rest of them must be speech crafters, or you're already Toastmasters. So whatever be the level that we are in today, my sharing is meant for every one of us, those of us who are new, to learn something new. But if you're already a well-established Toastmaster, it's just to recap what we already know. So if there's anything, do share your questions on the chat, and later we will have a moderator to go through the questions for Q&A. Okay, so can I start my session now? I'm going to be sharing my screen.
Go ahead and start.
Just give me a minute. I prefer this way of presenting so that I can still see you all, I can see the chat, and also my slides go on. So friends, today I'm going to share about concluding a speech. To sports fanatics here, or who love sports, right? Imagine going to a match and you see a wonderful game. The best of players playing, they start off well, the whole game has the excitement. But assume that it just ends drastically with no proper conclusion, meaning that there are no goals scored, there's no announcement of winners, just that, oh, it's done. Okay, the game is done. Okay, I just want you to remember how you would feel. A speech is similar to that. If you do not have a good conclusion to your speech, you may have a great theme, you can have the best of your speech, you can have the topic is nice, everything can be there, but if you did not conclude well, then it does not end well as well. People do not remember your speech. If you look at world champions, all of them have wonderful speeches, but what makes a winner is someone who concludes the speech well. That is how. So go back to the YouTubes that are there, videos, and see, why is this person winning? Well, someone else who was equally there did not win. And most of the time, it is the concluding the speech that was missing, or was too, it was not done properly. Now, let's go into sharing about me. Of course, we had our Toastmaster of the Day who introduced me. Thank you so much for the sharing. But I would like to invite any of you, in case you want to connect with me on my socials. This is my link tree. You can use your QR code. It's a QR code. You can connect to me on any of the social medias, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and so on. You can connect with me and we can have a friendship that can continue further from this session. Now, today my agenda is going to be criteria of successful conclusion. we are going to look at some closing techniques. There are many techniques, friends, but today I'm going to concentrate on just 3 of them, keeping time in mind, and of course, tips to success of making a wonderful speech. Now let's look at criteria of a successful conclusion. The first criteria is achieve a sense of closure. You can start off a story. In my story of going to a game, if there were no winners announced, if there was no goal scored, there is no closure. We need a closure. All of us need a closure when we start something. And so a very good conclusion will help us have that closure. Okay. The theme today is happily ever after, right? But what is that? Just alone, that is not enough. We need to know what happened. Why was that happily ever after? So that is what we need to have achieve a sense of closure. The second is to make an impact. How many speeches have we heard? And we remember some of them. And the reason we remember them is because of the impact they left on us. And a very, very popular speech that all of us around the world will remember, the I Have the Dream, right? Because it left an impact, not just to many years ago, but even today, if you listen to that speech, it will leave an impact of why we need to have a dream and why change is required. So friends, when you make a speech, always remember that you need to leave an impact. And then the third is, how do we time this conclusion? If it is a 5 to 7 minute speech, you should at least have about 10%, 5 to 10% of your time for the conclusion. Because if you just go too drastic, people forget what you were trying to say. They will remember the main, they will remember the body, the start and the body, but they will not remember your conclusion. So you need to at least keep 5 to 10% of your time frame to make a good impact on your conclusion. So now 5 to 7 minutes, we can roughly say at least the last 1 minute of your speech should be about your conclusion. Okay, how you're going to bring the whole thing back so that there is a closure, an impact, and therefore enough time for your audience to remember your speech. Now let's look at the closing techniques. So there, as I said, there are quite a few closing techniques, but today I'm going to concentrate on just 3 of them. And my favorite is call to action. I always want a change. I always want someone to go back and say, I listened to this speech and what was the call to action? We want change, right? So we want to make an impact. So call to action. So for example, let's say you're doing a speech on some procrastination habits that you have and what you have learned from it. So what would be the call to action? Anybody? Want to put in your chat, or you want to unmute and answer? I'm just giving you an example that if it is a speech on procrastination and what you have learned or what you would want to say to us that not to procrastinate. So what would be the call to action?
Have a calendar with steps to get things done.
Show results.
Pardon me? I lost. Someone said something, but I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Show results.
Sal, I think there's it's not clear. Your voice is not clear on the mic. Dennis, you have something to say?
Oh, I apologize. Show results.
Sal, are you saying show results?
Yeah.
Yeah, show results, right? So basically what we can say, if you're talking about procrastination or time management, of course you can say that please remember the next time you're planning something or you're putting aside something, remember to prioritize. Okay, this is how you do it, or to do the first things first, you know, the easier ones first, something like that. That will, people will remember about your speech. So call to action is important. Okay, so it basically, you explain what the action, the audience you want from. Okay, and second is to use a quote. Very important is that to as speakers, make a booklet of collecting quotes. Write down some, if you see some quotes, make a booklet and write down quotes, so that you never know when you will need these quotes. Of course, internet is there always for us to be able to search for any quotes. But as a good practice, as a speaker, have a book where you write down your quotes that you may have heard in a club, or you may have heard elsewhere, that you go back and make the quote. Okay, why is a quote important? Is because it adds authority. It amuses, sometimes it amuses the listener, and sometimes it also helps you to dramatize your speech. Okay, like for example, in this, I saw this quote that Cynthia had shared, which says the only reason to give a speech is to change the world. And this is a quote by John F. Kennedy. And so this is impactful, because if I want to say that I want to use this in my quote, is I have to remind my speakers or my audience that, hey, when you do your speeches, the only reason, remember, is to change the world. So if that is, instead of me telling, I use JFK because he has authority, right? So I use his quote to give this statement. And the third closing technique is referring to the beginning of the speech. Okay, so now in my sharing today, I have given you my target is basically I've concluding the speech. So now if I say that I'm going to conclude this session, I should refer back to what I started off. What are the criterias? What are the techniques? And what are the tips, right? That way, I'm going back to what I said first. It is like to recap or help the listener to recap. Okay, so referring to the beginning is a very good way to conclude a speech. So but you have to develop it quickly, make it short, and it will help you to reinforce your message. Now, let us look at tips to success. Okay, friends, when you're doing speeches, very important is to memorize your conclusion. What are you going to say? So in my speech today, I would say, I want you all to remember the three important things that I shared with you today, which are the criterias of good conclusion, what are the techniques that you can use, and of course the tips, the three tips that I'm giving you today, which is memorize the conclusion, end on time, and of course refrain from adding new things. Now if I go on to say, hey, you know what, you can also have another technique to conclude, then it's going to confuse you all, because I started off saying I'm giving you three techniques, and then now I go on to add one in the end, which can confuse you and wonder, what is this? Where is this coming? Which part of the speech is this? So you have to refrain from adding new things into your speech in the last minute. So as a conclusion, let us go back to what we had. Can I have someone unmute and say, what are the three criteria of successful conclusion? No particular order, yeah? Just see what you remember.
Can I say?
Yes, please.
A sense of closure and to make an impact. how to time 5 to 10%. You have to time from your speech. That's the three
Yeah.
things.
Very good, very good. Now, what are the three closing techniques that I shared?
The three closing is memorize your speech.
Refer
That
to
is
the beginning.
refer to the beginning. Yes, that's right. Then
Oh,
call
use a
to
quote.
action. Call to
Call to
action.
action. Use the quotes and
Yeah, that's right. And of course, the tips were memorize and then
End
end
on
on
time.
time. Yes, that's right. So this concludes my sharing with you all. And of course, I want to end with this wonderful quote which says, great is the art of beginning, but greater is the art of ending. So friends, let us learn to conclude our speeches well. And I want to leave you all with just this QR code and also a link where I would love to have feedback from you on how my sharing session was. Thank you, and over to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much for that speech, Swarna. You definitely gave us some very good tips and suggestions on how to end a speech, no matter how long it is. I have indicated on my agenda that there's an opportunity for a question and answer at this time. That the questions can either be one, raised in the chat, or if you electronically raise your hand, we can call that way as well. It's the
maybe
second hand.
can I ask?
Okay, Wes, I hear you say it. Can I ask? Sally was physically raising her hand, and I just would like to say this again. It's
Maybe
hard to see everybody on screen. The screen shifts so that if you do something physically in person, I may not see it. That's why we suggested either putting the question in the chat or doing it electronically, because it's easier to follow that way. Now, Weston, you said you had a question, and then Sally. Go ahead.
And, oh no, just in case if you get the slideshow, because I tried to write, I'm using my cell phone. So if you can get the note or the slideshow, that's the only question I have. It's really a good tip.
Thank you,
I
Weston.
will share with you. I'm just sharing my slides with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sally, you had your hand raised.
Yes. I'm very grateful for the tip of collecting quotes. I love them. You hear them all the time, but I can never find them when I want them. So my new take action, is to start collecting those ones that I find stunningly wonderful. And that way I could grab a reinforcement in remembering them. I loved your speech. It was very step by step. And I think it's very helpful for us in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Have I met your expectations?
Does anybody else have a question for Swarna? I have a question for you.
Yes, Toastmaster of the day.
Your speech was titled Concluding Your Speech. And you gave us very good suggestions in terms of like, as we wind down the speech. My question, and maybe it might be a long one, but when someone is preparing their speech, they have ostensibly some objectives that they want to share with the audience, 3 or 4 or 5 things that they absolutely, positively, definitely want to make sure they say.
Kuwaza.
Oh, Sal, wait a minute, please. So
Kuwaza.
Sal, let me finish my. So the question that I have is, in writing the conclusion or concluding the speech, the speechwriter should the speechwriter have in mind how their speech flows in terms of one, not only content, but time, so that they make sure they get to those 4 or 5 or 6 important points?
A wonderful question, Kuwaza. In Toastmasters, the reason why we have time as an important aspect of everything that we do is to be able to convey something in that time. As table topics is 2 minutes, as evaluation is 3 minutes, and then prepared speech is 5 to 7 minutes. And of course, workshops normally is about 15 minutes, or even keynote address is 15 minutes. And so my suggestion would be that you start with the end in mind. What is it that you want your audience to take away? Start with the end in mind. And when you do that, you cannot have, I would strongly say, do not have more than one takeaway, because people cannot remember. Have just one takeaway, and a powerful one. And I'm sure they will remember your speech wherever they go. So start with the end in mind. So normally we recommend, okay, if I'm going to, this is my objective of my speech. When you look at the purpose of your speech, you know what is this objective. Have a title that goes well with it, okay? So that can be your takeaway. Your title can be your takeaway, right? But you keep working on it throughout the speech so that people remember that as a takeaway. Does it answer your question?
That does, thank you. Sal, you had something, a comment or question? Sal, you're muted. Sal, you were muted. We could not hear.
He's gone. Is he there? I can't see him.
Yes,
Yeah, he's gone.
he's gone. Okay. Do we have any other comments or questions for our speaker?
I mean, I'll say something.
Oh, Denise. Okay, go ahead.
I really, sorry, I haven't said that in a while. I really appreciated your presentation. I never thought, I've always written key points of a speech, also jokes, because I just stand up occasionally. But what really hit home for me was writing a speech starting at the end. It's almost like when I write a script, we're told to figure out the ending. So I found that really interesting. But I thought the whole presentation was very interesting. And even though we're all educated, it just bears repeating how to do this succinctly. So thank you.
Yeah. Practice, and Toastmasters gives us enough time to practice.
Absolutely.
A very safe space to practice. I'm sure Sally or I think in this crowd, I would say Sally and Cynthia knows how I started off as a speech crafter and leaders worldwide. And today, how I am is purely practice. I won't say I have improved a lot. I mean, I'm at the best, but I can myself see a difference in how I express myself. So every time there is an opportunity to speak, please take that opportunity. Especially in Toastmasters, take that opportunity. Table topics, take that opportunity. And remember, in table topics also, I keep telling everyone in my district, even table topics, have a call to action. It's not about the topic, it's about your call to action. Because that's when people remember. You can agree, disagree, doesn't matter, but have a call to action.
Thank you for that suggestion there. That definitely adds a little impact and importance to the table topics. Thank you. At this point, we will take a moment as we get ready to transition to hearing our next speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please do share your feedback because feedback is an important part of learning. I have shared my link in the chat. Please take some time to give me your feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker, I'm doing a little multi-duty here. Our next speaker is Dr. Wade Cartwright. The purpose of his speech is to provide an instructional speech on selecting a speech. Dr. Wade Cartwright is a medical doctor specializing in otolaryngology, which is the ear, nose, and throat. If I'm correct on that, Dr. Cartwright, ear, nose, throat?
Yes.
Health and pathologies. He's been in Toastmasters since 2014 and has served in several club officer and area director positions. Currently, Dr. Cartwright is the VP of Membership and Secretary of the Vision Masters Toastmasters Club. He is also the Vision Masters Speechcraft Coordinator. Dr. Wade Cartwright's speech is titled Choosing a Speech Topic. Dr. Wade Cartwright. Dr. Wade Cartwright, Choosing a Speech Topic.
Thank you, Kuwaza, for that introduction. Hello, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I would like to talk a little bit about selecting a speech topic. We all have many of things that we can talk about, but sometimes it's kind of hard for us to find them. What I'd like to say is that if there is something in your life or experience that you find interesting, it's probably true that your Toastmaster compatriots will also find that interesting. So just ask yourself the question, is this going to be of interest to them? In our icebreakers, we like to find out something about the new member. If the new member can just mention a few things about themselves or their experience, that would be good. Just a few things to let us get to know them. These things can be from their educational experience, their family experience, or anything else, their interests, their hobbies, their travels, or anything else. In my icebreaker, I started out speaking about my favorite kindergarten teacher, who was such a wonderful storyteller that everyone just loved her. Also, I talked about my 8th grade teacher who nobody liked, but he gave me gave the class a wonderful tool that I used in college to help me get good grades. Also, I talked about some of the things that made the freshman baseball team at Michigan State so wonderful that we beat the varsity most of the time when we played them. And this was the day before freshmen were allowed to play in intercollegiate competition. Also, I talked about some of the people who encouraged me. So it's good to talk about that. Also, it's good to have some humor in your speech too. In my icebreaker, I added some family humor and talked about some of the funny things. I even thought that I brought Hank's father into the speech and talked about some things that we shared at family gatherings. I think it's good to speak to the interest of your group. My group, being Toastmasters, are interested in giving speeches, and I spoke about an interesting beginning of speech once, where the speaker just had everyone stand up, to take a deep breath, shake hands with the person to their right, shake hands to the person to their left, and sit down again. And that was a good opening. Also, I, in terms of my expertise as a physician, I gave a speech on the ear and how the ear works in terms of hearing. I think that was well received. Also, I gave a speech on patient advocate, on how someone should or could accompany a patient to the health provider's office in a supportive and helpful way. So there are many things that we can speak about. And one thing that we can do is to make a list of things that we'd like to speak about. And when the opportunity comes, we can speak about those things. So fellow Toastmasters, we all can speak about many topics because we have many interests. And back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dr. Cartwright, for those very good examples of how we can just prepare for a speech and choosing a speech topic. What I would like to do is call upon our timer to give us 2 minutes. 2 minutes on the timer, please. And for those who have a comment, suggestion for Dr. Cartwright, to send that directly to him in the chat, please.
I'm a little hoarse, so I'll be brief, but Dr. Cartwright, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. It's very well crafted and presented. Was I talking on mute?
I think we've got 2 minutes. I think we've got 2 minutes for folks to have shared their comments, etc. with Dr. Cartwright. At this time, I will directly call on our timer, Mike Pruitt, who will share just well, maybe it might be more than a bit. He will share some levity with us as he dons the hat of joke master for this evening. Mike Pruitt, our joke master for the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Well, it is fall again. Actually, this year fall starts on September 23rd. But fall is a time when the farmers finish taking in their harvests, especially pumpkins, out in the country. So I have a question for you. How do you get the attention of a country girl? A tractor.
Oh.
I've never heard that one before. That's a good one. I like that one. That's
Chuckle,
cute.
chuckle.
Yeah, that's cute.
One of the unique features of our club is you will probably hear some bits of humor you probably have not heard before. But we do believe that levity and mirth are also a good part of having a club meeting, and also a good part of weaving into your speech as it engages the audience. You'll have plenty of opportunity to practice that in this club. Now, I would like to call to our virtual lectern our table topics master for this evening, Cynthia Stott, who will offer some phrases, terms to engage us.
Great. Let me see if I can use my camera. Can you hear me okay? I might have to turn my camera off so the audio's okay.
We can hear you and see you.
Okay, great. Awesome. And how much time do we have? Because we might be running behind a bit. Oh,
I believe you can call 2 or 3 persons.
2 or 3 persons. Okay. So, and our word of the day is
expectations. And they can be great or small.
Okay. Great. So if you could include expectations in your answer, that would be great. Denise, would you mind answering a question for 1 to 2 minutes? Would that be okay?
Do I have a choice? Sure.
Yeah, you do have a choice. You always have a choice.
Not with this crowd. I don't think so.
So, what are your expectations for Toastmasters and well, I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna take Toastmasters out of it for speaking, for improving your speaking and communication. What are your expectations?
I continually have to work on my enunciation and work on my eye contact. I was supposed to do stand-up tonight to honor my comedy mentor with other comedians, but my daughter had a panic attack because of COVID. She goes to Northern Arizona University, and there's a whole epidemic going on up there and down here as well with her workplace. So that being said, working on eye contact, working on being succinct when I have to speak. My father, to this day, 24 years later, has the longest speech ever for the father of the bride. And I need to know how to cut them off when they go on tangents, because his speech was 15 minutes and I looked at my husband looked at me. Yeah, he's a freaking narcissist, but that's a whole other story. And my experience was that I wanted to cut him off, but I knew that it would be, I can't believe Denise cut off Steve. Like, that's all I would hear for the rest of my life. So one thing I want to learn are classy ways to end someone who's rambling, possibly such as myself, but Kwanzaa's looking at me and nodding, so I think I'm saying something I'm looking over here. How to take charge of a speech when you see it going off the rails. Or a joke for that matter, that's starting to go off the rails on a Zoom call. Like saying across the line, it worked, but I would have liked to have more humor about it. So it's like different situations, I think, and how to address them in a professional manner.
Great. Awesome.
You weren't expecting that, were you? Were you? The word of the day is expectation.
Expectations, absolutely. And did you see how I said thank you? Because I saw the red card. And that's one way that you can end it. You'll also be learning a lot about feedback in Speechcraft. So stay tuned. Awesome. My next volunteer.
No victim in a hot seat.
Hank, would you like to volunteer to answer our question?
Of course. Yeah.
Great. And could I have our timer raise your hand electronically, Mike, so that the timer comes up to the front of the Zoom screen and it can be seen by our speaker, Hank. So make sure to use the word of the day. I'm going to use it. Well, it's the same question I have of you. Well, you're clapping your hands, timer. If you could raise your hand, go under reactions and choose raise hand. And that will work. There you go. Okay, awesome. Great. You met expectations. The same question. What are your expectations for public speaking and communications through this Speechcraft program for yourself?
Well, my expectation is mainly to get more, to be more comfortable speaking in public or speaking with people. It's just something that I've been in the past. I haven't done a lot of public speaking, so like a lot of people, I get a little nervous doing it, and sometimes that can sometimes that makes me I think that makes me come off a little bit more stiff than or maybe some of the nerves might show through. So yeah, I think my expectation is to get more to be more comfortable just from doing it more. The more you do something, usually the more comfortable you become. And so
absolutely.
So yeah, I would say getting a little bit more experience, a little bit more practice, and also learning getting some pointers, some tips from other people to help me kind of come up with ways to put together a speech, write a speech, come up with ideas to how to put it all together in a way that gets my point across and helps to create a better impression, more of an impact. But mainly, yeah, I would say, yeah, I came in expecting the more of the mainly comfort and just to develop that just that comfort with speaking, and hopefully in addition to that, I'll start learning things that will help to make my speeches more impactful. And that's, yeah, I'd say that's it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Excellent. Okay. Do we have time for one more? Kuwaza?
One more.
One more.
One
Barb.
more.
Okay, great. Barbara, on the phone, would you like to answer a question or do you want to pass? And yeah.
What is the question?
Oh, same question. What are your expectations for improving your public speaking and communications through this Speechcraft program?
Oh, it's a great question. Well, I'm already learning a lot. My expectation is to learn more before I give my speech. And the reason I say that is because next week I'm giving my speech. And first of all, I really, really enjoyed all the two speakers tonight and everybody's comments, because it helps me to feel more comfortable getting ready to make my 5 to 7 minute speech next week. So I really like the information, bringing your people back to the what you had announced in the beginning, that you wanted to make sure that you have a good closing. So I'm expecting that I will do better by listening in on these speeches. I really appreciate that. So I have a lot of expectations. And I look forward to doing and learning from all of you. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. And I'd just like to share with Barbara and everyone, we are always speaking, whether we are greeting someone for the first time, whether we are sharing with a group of friends, or doing something verbally in a professional manner. We are always speaking. Having said
That's so
that,
true.
I will now call upon our general evaluator, who will call members of her team to give the evaluation part of our meeting. West, say hi.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you all. I would like to call our first evaluator for our first speaker, Mr. Bruce Taylor.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to open by saying it's always important and entertaining to listen to. I want to use a better word, but I was going to say a good speaker. A good speaker means that we're going to listen to someone who's going to keep us engaged. And I find that extremely important. One of the things that our speaker this evening, our first speaker this evening, talked about was the conclusion of a speech. She spent a great deal of her speech time giving us the value of the conclusion of a speech. We all go through being Toastmasters that every speech has an opening, a body, and a conclusion. What she did was she went straight to the conclusion, but she also did it by including the opening and the body. The conclusion is the thing that really makes the impact, because it's reviewing or reiterating, if you will, what occurred during the speech. What kind of impact do we suspect that the speaker made? And in this evaluation, we want to point those items out to the speaker. The closure, the impact, and the time of the speech is what's going to keep the speaker engaged with the audience, and it's going to keep the audience engaged with a speaker. The things that we must all remember, particularly when we're presenting. We are presenting because what we're doing literally is talking to the audience. We're making a presentation to the audience. And as a speaker, we want to keep them engaged. And I can't emphasize that word, engaged, enough. I'd like to congratulate our speaker this evening on how well she came across with bringing us that conclusion, how well she made us understand the value of a conclusion. Now remember, conclusion is going back over the entire speech. What we're doing is making that speech have an impact on the audience as we evaluate the speech. I enjoyed her presentation. I enjoyed making this effort to make her understand the value of the impact of her speech and how much I concluded that I, among all of us here at Toastmasters, enjoyed the speech. Back to you, Madam GE.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. I really appreciate you. I expect the evaluation from you like this, and I'm glad you met my expectation. It was a good evaluation. Our second evaluator, Sal, where is Sal? Oh, okay. Kuwaza, okay.
Yes, I'm got another hat on this evening right now, and that's to evaluate our second speaker, Dr. Wayne Cartwright. Dr. Wayne Cartwright, your speech was titled Choosing a Speech Topic. When I first read that title, what came to mind was for some of us, whether we are just starting out or even more experienced, the idea of choosing a speech topic can be something of, I don't want to say a non-starter, but more likely it causes the moment to pause. It causes us to stop and maybe freeze for a minute as we think upon that question, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? What can I say that will, one, get their attention, inform them, leave them with something that they may not have heard before? Choosing a speech topic. I very much like your model of using the icebreaker as a model for choosing a speech topic. In Toastmasters, as you mentioned, the icebreaker is that opportunity to share what we know most about, which is ourselves. It is also, for those persons new to speaking, a wonderful opportunity to share about yourself. What is it that fires you up? What makes you laugh? What are the things that you are curious about? And through your speech, what are your expectations in terms of learning and growing? Dr. Cartwright, you did a couple of things in your speech I kind of liked hearing. One, you used the phrase Toastmaster compatriots. And I thought that was a good combination of terms because it showed that we here in Toastmasters are compatriots, that we are here together, not just accumulating time in the room, but that we are sharing our growth with each other. So I like that term. You mentioned that the icebreaker is an opportunity for the speaker to share their interests, their hobbies, and travels. 3 different pieces of their life that may touch on something that garners somebody else's ear or attention. In your speech, you've used pauses as part of your transition. I liked hearing that, particularly when one is speaking, if you're unsure or going to the next piece, a pause is an effective way. It also gets the attention of your audience. By the way, just very quickly, you use the term also that was sort of a semi-transitional phrase for you. I would just recommend in your next speech, maybe not so many uses of that word and use other phrases for transition. Good speech and some good ideas and tips for our upcoming icebreaker speeches. Thank you, Dr. Wade. Madam GE, back to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. At this point, I would like to call our timer. Can you give us a timer report, please?
Sure, just a moment. Let me get my. See if I can get myself on here. Oh, all right. Yeah, get on here. Hold on. Oh, I know what I need to do. Okay, here I am. All right. So I hope I lived up to your expectations as the timer. Our first speaker, Swarna Kalyan, spoke for 15 minutes and 53 seconds. Our second speaker, Dr. Wade, spoke for 5 minutes, 46 seconds. Our table topics, Denise, 2 minutes, 16 seconds. Hank, 2 minutes, 3 seconds. Barbara, 1 minute, 21 seconds. So you all made it to the 1 minute mark and didn't go over the 3 minute mark. So good job. Our evaluator, Bruce, was 2 minutes and 51 seconds, and Kuwaza, 3 minutes, 21 seconds. So you were also within time. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you so much. Grammarian report, Sally. Can you give us grammarian report, please?
We are now getting to the important part of things. How many people remembered to use expectation?
I think you are muted. We cannot hear you.
Cannot hear me? Oh my gosh.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I'll start over again. Beg your pardon. Cynthia had 7 uses of expectations. Bruce 2, Denise 2, Imari 2, Swarma 2, Hank 2. But engaged, I love that word. I think that's really a connecting word. And I thought I heard the word cornucopia. I love that. That is something I've never even heard mentioned yet anywhere. And impact. I think impact is so important about our experience with each other and what an impression you make on us. And I would like to say, when Wade was talking about speaking, I wanted him to say something about tightening the belly so that there is air enough to bring out the importance of the speech. Without those stomach muscles, you're lost. Thank you. It's because I'm a singer that I know how important you have to have that extra stuff stored somewhere to bring it forth. Thank you.
Madam GE. Madam GE.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, all of you. We had a great meeting and I really enjoyed the speech. If just listen to both the speakers, it will be easier to us how can write our speech and what's the importance of our speech is the conclusion part, especially thinking from the ending mind that I got the best tip. So when I give my speech, I think about my ending part. That even if I forget everything, I can take that. And Kuwaza, I like to start with you. Thank you. You took so many parts as a Toastmaster, as a evaluator, and of course your role as a president and Sergeant at Arms, and you perform all. Thank you so much. Our timer, thank you so much, and our speaker, of course. Thank you. You came in to give us this wonderful speech, especially Swan. And I hope you will give us this speech again, because we need to hear this kind of a speech, because to develop to be a good speaker. And Dr. Ware, thank you so very much. And our table topic participant, Hanks, and I think Denise, and I believe Barbara. Three of them are what expecting from the Toastmasters. You answer very beautifully, and the evaluation part as good as the speakers. So you gave us a real good feedback. Thank you so much. Always when you hear a feedback, it's not only for our speaker, for other audience too. So I got so many tips from you guys. Cynthia, thank you so much, because the agenda was filled before we came to the Toastmasters, and because of Cynthia, thank you. I really appreciate you. Thank you, all of you. You join us. The only feedback I can give today, if you start on time, because the agenda was already filled, but we start 20 minutes late, that we're gonna have to lot of time for table topic questions, and everybody could participate. Katrina, Cassandra, and I think Marie could participate on table topic. Other than that, we had a wonderful meeting. Thank you so much, Sally. Yeah, you sign up a grammar for the whole of the whole time. I really appreciate you for your time, and thank you so much. And I hope I'll see you next week. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Weston, for that great, wonderful evaluation of our meeting. As I said, the meeting is composed of three parts. There's the time speech, the spontaneous speaking, and the evaluation, all of which are important in getting growth, as speakers, as well as just in coordinating and doing leadership in Toastmasters. I would like to give a thanks and shout out to Michael Pruitt, for figuring out how to get the agenda in the chat. Having the agenda available to visitors and members is important. That way people can feel more a part of the meeting, because they can follow what's happening. And so thank you for doing that. That's something that we can incorporate going forward in our meetings, and periodically drop that in the chat, so that as people join, whatever time they come in, they can have a copy of the agenda available and be able to follow along. Thank you very much for that. It sounds like a small thing, but it's a big deal, because it allows people to be more engaged with us as we do our club meeting. So thank you very much for that. We had some guests tonight, and actually I'm going to call on Cassandra, because I saw your name come in and we didn't get a chance to say hi at the beginning, but now I'd just like to recognize you. Thank you for joining us. And would you like to share your observation experience being part of our meeting tonight?
Oh, I enjoyed the meeting. The speakers were very great. I enjoyed that. And I had a really nice time. Very informative. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And we have a strong, open invitation. Come back and be with us again.
I will. Thank you.
Our guest speakers, Swarna, you were our guest speaker, but you also were visiting with us tonight. I'd just like to get a little feedback from you. Swarna, hello?
You were asking me? Sorry,
Yes.
Oh, thanks so much. It was lovely to be here. And I love the interaction in this group. It's nice. That's how we learn. Wes, thanks for a wonderful evaluation. And I want to personally thank Bruce as well for giving a very motivating evaluation. He didn't say a single negative thing about it. I wish he had some recommendations as well. I'm sure all of us have room to improve, but wonderful meeting. Keep it going. And as I said, let's keep practicing. Yeah, that's the only way we be a better version of what we are today. Over to you, Kuwaza.
Thank you. Katrina, good to see you and welcome. Would you like to share a word or two? Okay.
Hello.
Hi there. Would you like to share a word or two? Oh.
I don't have anything to share this evening.
Okay. Well, thank you for your presence.
Thank you.
Barbara, would you like to share observation on tonight's meeting?
Yeah. Well, I learn something new every time I'm on, and I just like the variety and the structure. I didn't understand it when I tried to join Toastmasters. Oh, I don't know, like a few years ago. I was feeling like, making a joke, really, a wild child, meaning, oh, all these rules. And I have changed my mind. I really appreciate the structure. And I really get how important each piece is. This is really good for, well, talking to anybody, as you said earlier. And so I think this is just wonderful. And I want to thank you all for being part of this beautiful club.
Well, thank you. And again, an open invitation, come back, be with us, join us.
You betcha.
Barbara is a member.
Farewell.
And she's speaking next week.
That's right. I'm back.
Yay!
Denise,
Okay.
I'm going to call and get your feedback, but I also wanted to take the opportunity, as you shared that you do stand-up, someone who appreciates the work it takes to bring a smile, let alone a hearty laugh. I can appreciate that. So
Thank you. Oh, you wanted me to say more. Look at that face. It's like, say more. You're not getting off that easily. When Cynthia emails me, texts me, it's like, you better be on. She's on it. So Cynthia, thank you for inviting me back. And you're all just as professional as you all are. Like I'm channeling my mother. You're all a joy to be with this evening. So thank you for putting the fun in this and for having a joke master, which I was not expecting. So that's pretty cool. Maybe I can rise to the occasion of being one next year. We'll see.
Please, we want to hear some of that New York humor.
I just want to say we do have a Toastmaster speech assignment that's how to handle difficult people and in a question and answer format. So that might have some good ideas for your dad.
Oh goodness. I will be sure to pass that forward. No, he'll be annoyed at me. So no. It's like we said something to him and he's like, I'm the father of the bride and I cut it down. Like, he did. Okay. How long was half hour? But yeah, thanks. You're funny. That's why you
And
learned a joke master tonight.
and next, Hank, if you'd have a word or two to share with us this evening before we close our meeting.
Oh, well, yeah, I thought it was, again, it was, I learned some things about, last week it was how to start a speech. This week, we're learning about how to conclude a speech. So I'm starting I've got the beginning and some ideas for the ending. And so now I can, I've got probably the two, maybe most the two trickiest parts, kind of, ideas for the two trickiest parts in my mind. So now maybe the middle, I can work on the middle. I can one complete speech. So, and then also, yeah, I wasn't expecting the humor tonight. And I see people have a sense of, that's always good to see. And yeah, hopefully we can, can keep that going. But I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And to answer your question, yes, we do believe in humor. It's an important part of connectivity, both one-to-one and in groups. So we're not going to be abandoning that. Hint, hint, all you latent joke masters. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening and taking time out to be with us for this meeting. We appreciate your presence, your insight, and on behalf of the speakers, thank you for sharing your comments and questions. And the club will be meeting next week. And for those who are the members, we have a speaker already. We're going to be getting other speakers together. And if you have a burning desire to just fill a role, let us know. Thank you very much. Everyone have a great evening and a great weekend. By the way, yes, as we heard, it'll be officially fall. So do whatever it is, we celebrate the change of season.
Yes.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Stay well.
Have a wonderful night.
Thank
too.
you. It was great. I'm sorry it was a teeny late.
It was wonderful. And Hank, are you going to join us as a Speechcrafters?
Oh, well, I am doing, it's my understanding I'll be doing my icebreaker speech next week.
Oh, great. Perfect.
Ooh, wow.
Then we'll have you connect with Mike so you can get an orientation, and then we'll assign you a mentor.
Okay.
Great. Great. Awesome. So Barbara's going to be speaking, and you're going to be speaking, and maybe Katrina will want to speak. It'd be great.
Icebreakers,
awesome.
I love it. Well, everyone have a good evening. Bye for now.
I will be in touch with you. I'll be in touch with you, Hank.
Okay, I look forward to it. It sounds good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sally, for being our grammarian.
Yes.
Have a great night, everybody.